So compare two people. Someone tells you, there's this guy. He spent a couple of years in college. He's got a couple of master's degrees. He's quite intelligent. He can speak English. He's moved to London very recently, and he's up here. He's up for the weekend doing some coaching with our competitive debating teams, and he's coming along to speak tonight. And there's this girl who takes off her clothes for page 3. Like, why is your inherent bias in your brain, leaving aside the fact that you've heard us, like, oh, the guy who's coming is ugly, by the way, he's absolutely kicked, he's hit every branch of the ugly tree on the way down, but the girl, as you can see, is incredibly attractive. Like, why is the automatic assumption in your brain that attractive girl must equal stupid and ugly guy must equal, like, really fucking smart? Sorry, apologies. This happens all the time. Why does this happen? Like, is it a problem with society or is it a problem with female sexualization? I think it's a problem with society that's exacerbated by the kind of sexualization that starts with page 3 and ends up with pornography made by people like Max Hardcore. Like, it ends up in that place. It's not a direct connection. It's not what Object will like to point out. I would love to see the faces on the people in the Object office when they watch the video of this debate and just go, I'm so glad we didn't go. Everybody would have said we're loonies. Maybe we are loonies. Maybe we're like the NUS. And congratulations. Congratulations for disaffiliating, by the way. The Union of Students of Ireland will welcomely accept you. I have decided on their behalf. Union of Students of Ireland / Durham. This notion of power theory is the last thing I'm going to say to you. Like, this idea that we got from two very intelligent people in the audience this evening who have said, like, why can't I not empower myself through my sexuality? I think I've already pointed out, you can empower yourself through your sexuality. Like, I have absolutely no problem with, to steal a line from Calvin Harris, I like them round girls, I like them skinny girls, I like them brown girls. That's just racist. like, literally, women can do whatever they want in the same way that I firmly believe men can do whatever they want, regardless of which way you decide to make yourself happy. Just go out and do it. Just don't harm other people. My objection, where I have an objection to the sex industry in its entirety, to lump page 3 in there for now because it's a convenient thing and I don't have to say page 3 and the sex industry, but I've now realised I've said more words than I would have if I'd said that initially, so where I have a problem with the sex industry is the impact that it has in society, and unfortunately I do see the sexualisation of society through page 3 as part of that. Where I don't have a problem with pornography or the engagement in pornography is the correctness or the appropriateness of the forum which, like, purports to disseminate that material. Like, I think that the content of pornography is almost made acceptable by the limitations we place on it in society. Where I have a slight queasiness with page 3, it's while I agree the content is much less objectionable to everybody. Like, I will never understand certain types of porn. I'm very kind of queasy about some of the stuff that I see on website. And like, when writing, no, this is actually the serious, unfortunate point. When writing my thesis, I had to look at some of the most objectionable sexual material you will ever watch in your life. And some of the stuff that's put out in the name of sexual gratification is just horrifically horrible. Like, I like a little bit of kink as much as the next person, but some of this stuff that is done is disgusting. It is almost okay for that stuff to happen because of the limitations that society puts on it. And the level of titillation in page 3, the level of damage that page 3 as an idea, or topless photos as an idea does, is almost magnified by the depth of its pervasiveness in our society. Like, how easily it's accepted that I can walk into any petrol station or any newsagents and buy like images where a girl has taken off her clothes. Like, great for one side of my brain, but horrific for another side of my brain, because this causes some sort of an acceptance or some sort of a notion in society that it's okay to just take off my clothes in order to sell more newspapers. Like, why is it appropriate for me to sit on a tube beside a granny and read The Sun and read very carefully the articles on page 1 and the sidebar on page 2, because that's what men do, by the way. We're looking at the weather and the shipping forecast, and then the really funny story about Gordon Brown getting stuck in the toilet. Why is it okay for me to do that, but like not have a laptop open and be flicking through pornographic images on the tube? Why have we, I'm like, of the same, like I'm looking at meta art, I'm looking at deviant art, I'm looking at something that is of the same quality, as Tim quite nicely put it, tits but no fanny. Why have we decided that some things are okay and some things are not okay? The last thing that I said that was the last thing, but it's not, because I've just remembered something when I look back at Tim. It gets funnier. The last thing I want to talk about is unrealistic expectations. Because in all summations, you should always refer to the other person who spoke on your side, and I think Tim raised a very important point. There are some women, like the honourable speakers for the proposition, both of them, and the chair, and I have to admit, like, seriously, I should have gone to college in Durham because Irish girls are ugly in comparison to this. Even the guys are more attractive than some of the girls I've met, particularly Guy. In terms of there are some really, really outstandingly, stunningly beautiful quirks of genetic nature that manage to survive in our world as examples to us all of almost pure physical perfection. And instead of celebrating those people in any sort of a way that created engagement, instead of saying, this is one of the ultimate women in our society, this is like physical beauty encapsulated, this is like the kind of woman that will launch 1,000 ships and make you cry in your sleep at night because you will never get to sleep with her. And I think that it's objectionable for women and disempowering for women when we denigrate that woman and put her on a grainy page of a paper that's going to end up in a gutter someplace. I think sexuality has its place in society, but it should be in its place and not in the sun and not in the mirror, and definitely not in something like the Weekly Sport, which doesn't have any sport in it. Beauty should be celebrated and sexuality should be celebrated. And while page 3 isn't to blame for all of the problems that we've talked about this evening, and page 3 isn't the worst example I could give you, I think page 3 is part of the problem, and for that reason I think it disempowers women. Thank you.